Okay, here you go. Namato Ratanatayasa. May I pay homage to Triple Gem, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. My respect goes to my parents and my teachers. Hello, good evening, everyone. So today is Saturday, the 19th of June. We are here with you all after a long time break. It's almost 3 weeks now. I haven't been online talking to you all. So, taking this opportunity today, we have a special guest I would like to present to you. He is originally from India. I currently um, doing research in Oxford University, and this is just a general discussion as it comes, as it goes. So, would you like to introduce?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I'm grateful to Venerable Sujanu for this opportunity. Um, we have been planning for some time to do this. Somehow it remained amiss, but I am very grateful for this opportunity, and I look forward to uh, hearing from all of you and for this discussion.
Hmm. So, just to let you know that he is an activist, and currently he's working on. Can you tell us a little bit on that? Which area you are working at the moment?
I'm a historian now. I'm writing a new book on the struggles of Dalit people, uh, the original Buddhists from India, and the black people in Africa and African Americans in America.
So, he is doing research on Dalits in India and Black Africans in Africa and in America. If you have any questions to ask, you can ask questions as well, and then see uh, what's going on. Okay. Mm. And then, so you will get the insight from a real person who is on the field. Eh? So, when you talk about the Dalits, would you mind to tell us a little bit? And you also mentioned Dalits are originally Buddhists.
Mhm. So in India, what we have is a caste system. You are assigned a position in the hierarchy, which is uh, vertical, and someone is above someone. And caste system started as a division of people into various compartments that gave access to certain class of people who were upper to lower class of people, while the lower classes remained deprived from all the facilities as well as avenues that could help them to improve their life. Nonetheless, the system of caste continued. It received a religious sanction. Earlier, it was meant to be a cultural organization. Then it became a society based institution and eventually culminating into becoming a Vedic, or what we call in today's context, Hindu caste system. Now, the caste system did two things. One, it assigned you a status from what womb you take birth from. That womb designates your status. And two, it created a class of outcasts who were not part of the human caste hierarchy. And that is why what they produced is untouchables. Now, in a European context, untouchable is someone who you can't touch because they are so influential and so powerful. In Indian context, as it happened in later times, untouchables were condemned to the worst form of human life. Their shadow was polluting. Even their gaze, what they look at, was polluting, let alone the physical touch was prohibited. Because of this, the Dalits, which is a new term that the former untouchables took over, organized, and historically, they were made untouchables for various reasons. One of the reasons was they were from a tribe when there was a tribal warfare in ancient times. The tribe that lost was designated to the lowest tasks. However, one had opportunity to leave that, but due to caste system, it pertained.
mm,
Now, in that vein, we should also examine the Buddhist past. When the Buddha came onto the consciousness of India, he became a biggest threat to the Vedic caste system because Buddha just crumbled the house of cards of caste system. Because Buddha offered that, many tribes which were eventually declared untouchables became the part of Dhamma.
mm,
And because they were part of Dhamma, there was a repeated assassination of the people who were identifying themselves in the pathway of Dhamma. Buddha himself was subjected to several attacks, physical, spiritual, as well as what we have in today's context, um, the derogation of his ideas. They called him a false thinker. Who were these people?
mm,
These were the Brahmins, the top class, what eventually became caste of the system. Why would they criticize Buddha? Because Buddha promulgated the theory of life that was not at all relying on some rituals, ceremonies, or based on your birth. Buddha gave an independent autonomy for anyone to become a Buddha. And that's why much of the history of 2000 years has been what Dr. Ambedkar, one of the great revivalists of Buddhism in India, said Indian history has been a mortal conflict between Brahminism and Buddhism. Buddhism, due to its own passage, did not take up arms while it received warfare from invaders. They were different invaders. They are known by different names in today's political context. The great institutes of learning, fellowship, worship, practice were desecrated. Nalanda University is being one of the prime examples. And they were left to forgotten. Thanks to the practitioners and believers in South Asia, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and more importantly, East and Southeast Asia, who came and recovered whatever they could. And today, what we have is the spirit of Buddha is alive in every human being, not only in India, but outside India. more importantly, right now, the attack on Buddha's Dhamma was so repeated that it had to be remained alive or kept alive outside the country. Today, that's why we have so many traditions from across the world. While the birthplace of Buddha, India struggles to get similar central attention because Buddha, if they cannot defeat you, they will assimilate you. That's what happened with Buddha. The Buddha's challenge could not be culminated. It was the word of the people. It was not meant for any particular initiation. One could become a Buddhist by living the life prescribed by Dhamma, which was not meant to be hard, fast rituals. It was meant to be a practice. Because it became a worship or fellowship of common masses, marketplace became the ideas as well as the center of exchange of values. In that vein, because they couldn't defeat Buddha's gospel, they assimilated him by announcing that the Buddha is the ninth avatara, reincarnation of Hindu god Vishnu. And in India, Buddha is treated as such, as a secondary ninth element of Vishnu, which is to say, Buddha cannot attain the status of designated master. Buddha always needs to be subordinated. He has to be someone who is lower. And that idea is what we call in today's lingua colonization of mind and colonization of culture. Within the tradition of India's philosophy, Buddhist philosophy remains the corpus of all the other philosophies that took place after the birth of the Buddha. There are enormous different philosophical traditions who draw their inspiration from the Buddha. India is known as the land of multiple cultures and spirits. It's a spiritual center, it's a capital of attaining multiple rationalities through various traditions. Almost all of them have linkages to the Buddhist values. Some openly announce, while some secretly have linkages. In today's context, what we see is the Dhamma that was propounded by the Buddha gets a revival in a new form. Erstwhile, it was meant to be a religion restricted to few ascetic and monastics. It was removed from the memory of the people. The Buddha was declared as a charlatan, as someone who's phony, who performs magic, and various assaults were made. The incredible thing of this assault was it was not one time, it was for several generations. And as it goes, as the generation passes, the hearsay becomes the ritual. And today, what we have is different designations offered to the Buddha. From 1956 onwards, which was the year when Ambedkar decided that he will take back the former Buddhists to their homeland. Homeland as in the land of Dhamma. He converted approximately 400,000 people in 2 days. And he had a plan to make India the land of the Buddha.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, he died 6 weeks, and so the responsibility rests on us.
Hmm. So thank you for sharing such a beautiful story and the reality that's going on in the past and even now. Yeah. So, and it's a long struggle that uh, thousands of people are still fighting for it and struggling to get the freedom, and kind of independent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, meanwhile, you did mention about Ambedkar.
Hmm.
Would you be able to elaborate a little bit of how he came to Buddhism? Yeah, because that time Buddhism was not that famous and was not popular. Very few people know about it, and there were no not many monks.
Yeah.
People very unknown. Could you tell us a little bit on that?
For sure.
Yeah.
Now, see, Ambedkar is the prime architect of India's constitution. He was a labor leader. He was a leader who also fought for India's independence. But also, Ambedkar is someone who is far educated. 1913, he goes to Columbia University, takes his master's, and then pursues his PhD. Then he comes to London School of Economics, registers for another DPhil PhD, then enrolls himself for a bar at law course to become a barrister, and then goes to University of Bonn in Germany to register for third PhD.
Mhm.
So he was basically someone who was curious about knowledge, want to go deep, offer
Seeker of knowledge.
seeker of knowledge. He indeed was. And Ambedkar belonged to what we have a Dalit community, former untouchable community.
Mm.
So he was, at his time, the most educated person from the community.
Only come no, I think in probably in India as well.
Yeah, eventually,
Yeah.
but when he started off
Yeah.
as his undergraduate in
Yeah.
India,
Uh,
in Bombay province,
mhm.
probably he was the only one who was that educated.
Mhm.
But then when we see his path of couple decades, you will see him becoming probably one of the most educated person of that time in the
Mm.
continent.
Mm.
Now, Ambedkar's story is fascinating. Ambedkar is born as a Hindu and born as a low caste, untouchable Hindu. He wants to rid of the lowest identity. He tries to appeal and reform Hinduism, but his call is received with cold shoulders.
Mm.
Nobody's paying heed because who wants to give up the privileges that Ambedkar is asking?
Mm.
Ambedkar only wanted equality.
Mm.
He wanted access to temples as worshippers. He
So that
wanted,
means those days people were not allowed to the temples.
even now,
Mm.
the situation has slightly increased, but even in many traditional temples,
Mhm.
you are not allowed to get, you can get into temple premises,
Mhm.
but not into the sanctum.
Mm.
Sanctum is still prohibited for people. So
Mm.
even for anybody, not only, it's only meant for specific type of people.
Mhm.
So Ambedkar's trajectory becomes interesting that in 1936 he declares,
Mm.
I was born a Hindu. I tried to convince you all, but I think I'm fed up. I'm not going to die as a Hindu. And when he makes that announcement, the world attention is there. World media has reported that speech. His speech is called What Path to Liberation.
Mm.
By this time, Ambedkar probably is thinking or not thinking about Buddha, we don't know,
Mm.
but he makes references.
Mhm.
Now, Ambedkar was introduced to Buddha The reason I said he was the most educated person from the community was when he graduated 10th class,
Hmm.
he was offered a biography of the Buddha
Hmm.
by a teacher from local community in Bombay
Hmm.
named Keluskar, who was fascinated by the Buddha and wrote a biography.
So he was the one who wrote that biography himself.
Yeah,
Okay.
and he offered
Hmm.
as a gift.
Uh-huh.
Even in our tradition today, when they facilitate the students,
Hmm.
they give book.
Okay.
It's mostly centering around Buddha and Ambedkar's life.
Hmm.
So Ambedkar received this at the tender age of 15.
Hmm.
But he was a very curious thinker, as we can see with his multiple degrees
Hmm.
and educational uh, attainments.
Hmm.
An Italian monk visited him
Okay.
and had a discussion. And over several times, when he announced, many religious people tried to
Convince him.
convince him about their faith.
Hmm. So they can get more votes,
They,
more support.
it would have changed. Dalits are 16 to 17 percentage of India's population.
Yeah.
Now, if that single population becomes any religion, that religion is going to be, if not majority, second majority.
Uh-huh.
Any religion. And that the Islamic
Hmm.
people were interested, Christians were interested, and also Sikh
Hmm.
people were interested. Ambedkar took 20 years
To investigate,
to investigate.
study, and investigate. I wonder what happened with the Hindus or Brahmins that time. Did anybody approach him? Why you are declaring it and why you want to change, not wanting to be, dying in the religion of Hinduism?
I think Gandhi was not happy about it.
All right. Okay.
But also he said, if I was him, I would do the same.
Okay.
And many temples
Yeah.
and many different traditions
Uh,
try to also organize political conferences
mhm.
to convince Ambedkar that we are careful. But Ambedkar said, we don't just need spiritualism,
Hmm.
we also need access to material sources. Because Dalits are the people who work as landless farm workers.
Hmm.
These are the people who sweep the streets,
Hmm.
clean the toilets. These are the people who you see as the most helpless people. They need material sources for self improvement.
Mhm.
So he was concerned about both.
Hmm.
And in his struggle, he was deeply spiritual. He will recite or he will cite in his writings
Hmm.
the saints
Hmm.
from uh, uh, the anti-caste traditions.
Mhm.
So we can see Ambedkar's conditioning was always trained around this time. And so when he investigated different religions, and he did, he eventually said that he couldn't find anything more convincing than the Buddha.
Hmm.
Because he said, Buddha is not promising anything to you.
Hmm.
Buddha is not offering you a solace that other religions are saying.
Hmm.
Buddha is not declaring himself as a god or prophet.
Hmm.
Buddha is simply a teacher,
Hmm.
and his philosophy is open to be challenged.
Hmm.
Other religion, you might have trouble, but in Buddha's thought, you could accept it, you could reject it, you could walk with it as long as you are happy with it,
Mhm.
and you can depart when you feel you can depart.
Mhm.
Ambedkar found that quite liberating.
Hmm.
And for someone who is struggling to gain personal liberty from social, economic, political senses, this thought comes as a door to blissful,
Hmm.
as calmness, because it's offering you something very deeply rooted. And Ambedkar was also very much concerned
Hmm.
that he wanted to get back to the religion that was native to India.
Mhm.
He said to the leaders of India's political movement, I'm doing a great favor on you. Had I become Muslim or Christian, the equation would have changed. And there, our poets who became, from 1956, our names were Hindus.
Mm.
After conversion, we had names who were immediately Buddhist.
Mm.
Our culture were replaced with Buddha.
Mhm.
Our songs, our functions, our chantings,
Mm.
our prayers, Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa, became part of the culture.
Mm.
And immediately, when Ambedkar did that, the equation started to change. The poets say if Ambedkar would have gone to any other religion but Buddha,
Mm.
there would have been several wars
Mm.
because other religion would encourage you to not tolerate.
Yeah, not tolerate with the Brahminism or any cultures, traditions that exist now.
Because today,
Mhm.
in an average, 10 women from my community are raped every day.
Mhm.
13 houses are burnt every week.
Mhm.
7 people are murdered every day.
Mhm.
That's the statistics.
Mhm.
Now, if what we're talking about is in last 10 years,
Mhm.
500,000 crimes were committed against Dalits.
Mhm.
Now, these are just official records.
Mhm.
And we all know official records are heavily marginalized from the actual numbers.
Mhm.
So that's a recipe for a genocide. So any community who sees this takes up arms. You see, look across the world. But because of the belief in Dhamma,
Mhm.
there is huge contestation in the community itself.
Mhm.
The leaders want us to have a faith in Dhamma.
Mhm.
Some young people do not want to have, they want to react.
React.
But because of this break to the vehicle, we are still contemplating.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's frustrating, it's testing our patience.
Mhm.
And the tradition is now taking hold. The majority of Buddhists in India are Dalits,
Mhm.
and historically they have been Buddhists. And now there is a movement
Mhm.
to convert other people who are Dalits who did not convert during Ambedkar's time.
Mhm.
Not only them, but there is a movement to convert other people who
Mhm.
are oppressing you.
Mhm.
Because if you convert your oppressor to this Dhamma, maybe there is a fellowship of the bigger Sangha.
Yeah. So that's a very deep, a very deep social status, social conflict, and suppression. As you see, the statistics also uh, shows that how much suppression is going on in so many levels, and that's why quite interesting. People normally nowadays saying that Ambedkar brought peace to India, and as well as and Ambedkar is reviving the whole culture and Buddhism in India too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason Buddha becomes usually
Mhm.
is a symbol of peace,
Mhm.
harmony. Now, in practice of social life, these things come very practical, come very handy.
Mhm.
In the life of a monastic, one has to practice it with mindfulness.
Mhm.
In social life, that exists too,
Mhm.
but people don't recognize. Venerable Sujano was telling me that there are various thoughts that are always there. We suppress them. But when we go deep into Vipassana, we realize those suppressing thoughts are coming out.
Mhm.
In social life too, what we do is we gather energies, we gather various thoughts, and they vaporize
Mhm.
somewhere. I think that vapor will become a cloud of disaster.
Mm.
Somehow, Dhamma has maintained peace
Mhm.
and avoided
Mm.
many civil wars in India.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. So, just to inform you that today we are interviewing, we are here, I'm interviewing Dr. Suraj from India originally, and he's an activist, Dalit activist, and currently doing research in Oxford University on Dalit and the Black community. So if you have any questions regarding either the Dalits or Black communities in South Africa, I think whole Africa,
Mhm.
Africa and in America, you can post questions to him, not to me. He's the scholar on that. Okay, so you can post and you can ask questions on that. So this is a great opportunity because he's staying here at the temple for 10 days, and so far it's just over 1 week, and another couple of days going to stay here. So during this time, if you have any questions, again, you can ask, text me as well, and then finding other days, timing, and come back again to discuss and enlightening you about how depressing stories there in India, and not only in India, actually, whole Dalits and Black communities as well. Particularly, Ambedkar was a very scholarly, educated man who took Buddhism in 1956. Unfortunately, he died a little early after his conversion, and as a result, it's been a little difficult for whole community as well. And despite of that, it's over 50 years of a history. A lots have been changed, but a lots to be done. Yeah, lots to be done. Uh, in relation to that, again, further on, can you tell us why he chose Buddhism again?
So there has been a long-standing conversation
Mm.
about this in India. Um, Buddhism during his time, we don't have the statistics, but it was point something percentage. These were very few people.
Mhm.
Anagarika Dharmapala
Dhammapada,
came from Ceylon, Sri
Sri-
Lanka,
mm.
and established Mahabodhi Society in Kolkata, Calcutta. Ambedkar differed from many of these people. One was Wali Sinha,
Mm.
one of the uh, office bearers of
Mm.
Mahabodhi Society. Now, the distinction being, Ambedkar wanted a religion that the Dalit community will carry forward.
Mhm.
You don't want to give a religion where they will give up in the middle.
Mhm. Yeah, that will collapse. Everything,
That
mission is gone.
and so his last message was Prabuddha Bharat,
Uh,
Prabuddha, enlightened India,
mm.
and that means Buddhist India.
Mm.
He said, "I want to make India Buddhist country."
Mhm.
Now that's the last message. And as you know, any prophets, any leaders who are much revered in the community, their last messages is taken with seriousness by their followers.
Mhm.
Now, why he chose Buddha as his master, as he
Mm.
said? He said, I can't go refuge to anyone else
Mm.
but Buddha, my master.
Yeah.
Now, that's a profoundly humbling statement. When I hear that, it gives me goosebumps.
Mhm.
Ambedkar calling Buddha my master.
Mm.
The intimacy of that. It's almost like he's speaking to his ancestors who were perhaps in the audience when the Buddha was giving a discourse,
Mhm.
who perhaps also went and offered their dana
Mm.
to the Buddha.
Mm.
Ambedkar, 2500 years later, saying, "My master,
Mm.
the Buddha." When he is declaring that, Ambedkar is examining that the greatest challenge to the caste system was given
Mm.
by the Buddha.
Yeah. Mhm.
That's why there was a genocide
Mm.
of
Mm.
Buddhists, and his Dhamma.
Mm.
Repeated genocides,
Mm.
killing many monks were killed
Mhm.
during the onslaught
Mhm.
of Adi Shankaracharya,
Mhm.
and they corrupted much of good that we have in Hinduism today
Mm.
is plagiarism of
Buddhism.
Buddhism.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Many other traditions that we have took whatever Buddha could give. Buddha is the ocean,
Mm.
and whatever cup of that
Water.
blissful
Mm.
water you could taste,
Mm.
you could go in any direction and try to find the path of
Mm.
Nibbana.
Mm.
When the Sangha, the protectorate and carrier of Dhamma, was attacked, we all know the Dhamma was in oral tradition.
Yeah.
It was recited, it was never written down. One of the best ways then to make Dhamma go away
Mhm.
is to cut the channel.
Mhm.
And the channel was the Sangha.
Mm.
And Sangha was all caste.
Yeah.
One of the earliest,
There is no caste
No
once you
caste.
become a monk.
when the earliest converts
Yeah.
to Buddha, to Dhamma, were Brahmins also,
Yes.
were different religious people.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I am concerned now, Manteji, to look at how many of my ancestors
Huh.
who became monks
Mhm.
also were commentators or scholars
Mm.
or monks of this tradition.
Mm.
Because once you get into this ocean, you are all wet.
Yes.
Mhm.
There is no one untouched.
Yeah.
That story will help me to feel more confidence and tell many people
Mm.
our tradition is this.
Mhm.
But due to the onslaught and attacks
Mm.
to eliminate Buddha from this land, the values of Dhamma needed to be preserved. That's why we have Sri Lanka,
Mm.
Tripitak.
Mhm.
There is much debate on that. But to fight caste,
Mm.
Ambedkar thought Buddha was the greatest challenge. It was so big a challenge that they had to kill.
Mm.
Mm.
Now you can imagine if one is going to the level of exterminating a human being, how big of a challenge that must have been.
Mm.
And Adi Shankaracharya came from South India.
Yeah.
The Buddha was in North India.
Mhm.
So you can see the impact of Dhamma spreading
Mm.
Yeah. Throughout the Indian peplum.
throughout
Yeah.
India.
Mm. So there's a one question came from Anishara saying, "Do you? Sorry, are you practicing Buddhism?" And this is in Thai. I'm just
Please,
transliterating.
thank you.
Are you practicing Buddhism or are you a Buddhist? And which caste you from?
Mhm. I come from the lowest caste, what is called untouchable caste. Now we have now there is a huge fight among community. They say you should not identify yourself as Dalit. You identify yourself as Buddhist
Buddhist.
because that is your identity.
Mhm.
That is because Ambedkar gave you identity.
Yeah.
It's beautiful identity, it's pride identity.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, many people don't know
Mhm.
the beauty and vastness of this.
Mhm.
When I come here, I see people offering their service
Mm.
to the center, to various. There is a community, Thai people, Sri Lankan people, various. We in India, from my community, we know about this, but we have not interacted actively, so
Mm.
we don't know.
Mhm.
So, as to your question, Anisara, I am certificate Buddhist,
So he's saying he is a certificate Buddhist, yeah?
but I don't practice Buddhism. I go to temple maybe once a year, and I don't even know what to do. Once I go, I just know the prayer, because in my community where I grew up, there was a vihara, a temple,
Yeah,
and day and night from the loudspeaker, the monk
chanting.
chanting, because that's why that became in my consciousness.
Uh-huh.
Otherwise, there is no reason for me. I don't even know
Yeah.
what to do. When I came here, I tell Venerable Sujano, I don't know anything. Just tell me what to do, and I learn.
Yeah. I think you're not alone in this context. There are plenty of so-called Buddhist by birth, Buddhist by certificate, even in Thailand and even in probably in Sri Lanka, in Burma, and everywhere as well. But however, the difference probably, I would say, difference may be in those countries because tradition is there. They have been introduced to engage in Buddhist activities,
Yeah,
temples and ceremonies and cultures and so on. So, but in India, because it's just kind of reviving,
yeah,
people are still confused what should be done and what tradition should follow, and what needs to be done, and so it's not yet
yeah,
developed.
yeah, yeah,
So probably gradually it will introduce and it's become firmly established. So then become a proper way of a practice as well. So she's laughing that just a certificate Buddhist. So then why brought you here?
Oh, that's a deep question. You see, now I've been contemplating since over a year. I was just thinking always. I wanted to go and do some vipassana.
Mm. But I heard you have done one vipassana
I did
course.
one
Yeah.
10-day course 3 years before.
Okay.
I realized I always thought it was 2 years or, and after that, I gave up
Mm.
because the faith was less, and I was getting the benefits. So if I got benefits, I thought, okay, I should stop. I was lazy.
It's like I need a chocolate. I now got it, so I don't need it.
I don't need any more. The teachers always tell, keep practicing, keep practicing. I was lazy, and I was not really. But then every time the spirit in me tells me you have to go,
Mm.
and I always mentally make a note, but don't make effort to go and book.
Yeah.
So
It's like something that you want to do, but haven't put any effort to go.
nothing. It was just my mental exercise.
Okay.
And recently, due to overwork,
Mm.
I started getting worries.
Mm.
I started getting anxieties. I did not know, this never happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not sure what is happening to me. And then I said, this is a call from my body. There is no excuse, but now going deep. So I came much confused,
Mm.
much concerned, worried over several days, a week now,
Mm.
realizing after spending time here
Mm.
that those are basically your thoughts that you suppress.
Mm.
They keep coming.
Mm.
Banteji gave a guidance, and slowly, the practice is also getting better. One thing good about this is it is a detachment.
Mm.
It's difficult to detach, and mentally too. Since yesterday, when I'm meditating, my thought came that I am having too much saliva in my mouth. And since yesterday, that is my thought. I'm holding on to that thought. But under proper guidance, how to channel that, I think I'll be able to. But this is also a learning lesson.
Mm.
Every day I am observing
Mm.
it's new,
Mhm.
new challenge. I'm noticing it
Mm.
and I'm understanding this is a challenge. The other day the head was paining.
Mm.
Today is gone. And today this saliva problem mentally is always here. It will be gone maybe tomorrow
Mm.
or maybe sometime later.
Yeah. Hey. So just to remind you, everyone, those who are listening, so far we have 6 people here listening online, and here again, Tantita Dhammo also sitting beside us, listening and laughing and nodding his head. So just to let you know that we are talking with Dr. Suraj, who is a specialist and activist on the Dalits, particularly in India, and he's a strong Ambedkarite, so called nowadays. Yeah, it's a very famous word called Ambedkarites movement for the liberation, all the Dalits, and the suppression from all this, whether political, social, cultural suppression to the Dalits. So if you have any questions, you can post and ask him. And further on, because he's also working on a Black community, would you like to enlighten us a little bit about the how you have chosen to compare between Dalits and the Black community, sort of?
Oh, you're asking me to describe my book. All right, everybody, bring your coffee or bring, in fact, your food ration of several weeks. It might go long. I don't want you to starve. Uh, you know, in India, we have had various social movements against caste.
Mm,
One popular movement in 1970s was called Dalit Panthers.
mm,
Dalit Panthers is something, the name kind of is similar to Black Panthers in America,
mm,
but they're different.
mm,
Black Panthers are Marxists,
mm.
Dalit Panthers are Buddhists,
Okay,
some of them are communists,
but they are Panthers.
but they are Panthers because they want to fight against oppression. So it's a very interesting culture, and so um, there has been a culture of looking at Black community, how they are struggling, how they are fighting,
Mm,
and getting inspired. But
mm,
also among Dalits, there has been always an internationalist vision,
mhm,
global vision, not confined to one. It's kind of a broader snapshot. So nobody from my community has yet done a empirical research.
mm,
We just talk about Black community in our imagination, but we don't exactly know. We read, one is theoretical and one is empirical.
mm,
So for me, it was about time that I bridged the gap between word and action.
mm,
And so to do that, I decided to go to spend time with the community theoretically
mm,
and also produce knowledge
mm,
by being with them empirically. The Black community is also oppressed
mm.
very much. We all know George Floyd last year in summer in America, and the movement also in UK. People were protesting Europe across the world.
Mm.
Now, when one Black man in America is assassinated,
Mm.
the entire world.
Stood.
What about a Dalit?
Mm.
I want to make the concern, the plight,
Mm.
the suffering
Mm.
of historically oppressed people for more than 2,500 years.
Mm.
I want to make their concern the concern of the world too.
Mm. Mm.
I want them to also march
Mm.
for justice,
Mm.
for dignity, and for the right of livelihood.
Mm.
These bare minimum is not offered to the Dalit community.
Mm.
And there are various ways to go about it. Ambedkar For example, when he converted to Buddhism, he said we should have a Buddhist country's political union. That was his promise. And I am also, that's one of my projects, to unite the Buddhist countries as political entities. So we have a political bloc. So Ambedkar says, if anything happens to us, the Buddhist countries will come to our support.
That's a good idea.
But that did not materialize because we are very new. But there are some work I can do. And I started in that direction. It will take me to traveling to all of these countries, to knowing more, spending some time. That's one way of doing it. And then in addition, we can connect with similar oppressed people. Oppression has a language of similarity. If a woman is getting raped, a woman is getting raped. It's a universal phenomenon. So if a Dalit woman is getting molested, it should be a global concern. We would like to work on whatever avenues we have, so we can at least live a life without fear and the potential assault on our bodies and our mental psyche.
So thank you very much, Dr. Suras, for enlightening us in different aspects. And unfortunately, we have to stop here for our regular chanting. But again, since he's here, probably another couple of days, we will come back again and we'll discuss on different aspects of Buddhism, Ambedkar rights, and also Black communities and movements, and what can be done, what needs to be done, and what's going on. And if you have any questions or concerns or any opinions, again, you can text me. And then while he's here, we will come up on live. And again, after he left the center, we still can't. We still can invite and have a discussion on these different topics as well. So, on behalf of all the teams, I would like to thank you, Dr. Suras, for joining us, and thank you everyone for listening and interaction. So with this, may you all be well and happy, and we have to stop here and see you probably tomorrow. Tomorrow's at 6:30, Santita Dhammo is going to read the sutta and explain on the sutta, continue from the previous as well. So with this, may you all be well and happy, and see you tomorrow. And if you are willing to join with our evening chanting, you're most welcome to join with us as well. Until then, thank you and good night. See you. Snatu.